Hey everybody, this is the Jazz Architect. Today's episode is called Where Did AI Come From? That's right, where did it come from? This is a very important question, and a lot of people are talking about it and they're asking, what is artificial intelligence? It's almost like it suddenly appeared overnight. But in reality, this is not necessarily the truth. You know, you look around and one day we were sending emails using Google, checking our phones, and then suddenly everybody's talking about, hey, do you use ChatGPT or Gemini? What are you using? Right? So everybody's kind of heard about it, but they don't know exactly what it is and where it came from. AI didn't just come out of nowhere. It has a long history, actually, and has been around longer than most of us think. It's been involved in our imagination and mathematics, computers, language, and just about anything else you can think of. When people ask, where did AI come from? I think there are really two answers. The first answer is technical. AI came from computer science, mathematics, logic, statistics, neuroscience, and engineering. But the second answer is more human. And that's really what we're all here for, to talk about what it means to be human, right? AI came from a dream. People dream. That's what we do. Well, at least that's what we used to do before we just scrolled all the time. But human beings have imagination, and that's what we do. We dream up things. If you don't believe me, just look at little kids. Some adults do it too. I think about when I was young, I used to watch the Jetsons. Did any of you guys ever watch the Jetsons? I remember as a kid seeing Rosie the robot cleaning the house, talking back and helping the family. And honestly, some of us are still waiting for the robot that folds laundry and knows not to shrink our favorite shirts. But I have to be for real. Have any of you guys seen those mops that actually clean? They're like the little circular devices that mop and clean. That was in the Jetsons as well, so we're getting there. For many people, their first understanding of AI did not come from a textbook. It came from a science fiction movie. At least that's where it came from for me. Especially in movies on television like The Terminator, Blade Runner, Short Circuit, Knight Rider, which was my favorite. That was my jam. And war games. Those stories gave us robots, talking cars, dangerous machines. Some of them friendly, some not so friendly. And computers that seem to know a whole lot. AI begins with an old human question. Can we build something that imitates intelligence? One of the major turning points came in 1950 with the British mathematician Alan Turing. Turing asked a question, and it still shapes AI today. Can machines think? Instead of getting stuck arguing about what thinking means, Turing proposed what became known as the imitation game, or what many people now call the Turing test. The basic idea was this: if a machine could communicate in a way that seemed human-like or human enough to fool a person, then maybe we should take seriously the idea that machines can show intelligence. But Turing was not saying that a computer had a soul or feelings, and that distinction still matters today. I think about it all the time when I go to eat at my mom's house. Her southern cooking is super soulful. It definitely has soul, just like some of the artists out here, musicians and painters. That's something that can't be recreated. It can get close, but you know if it has soul or not. And that usually involves a lived experience, a memory, a struggle, a joy, some type of cultural event. There's humanity behind that. Turing was not trying to prove that machines had that kind of human depth. He was giving us a practical way to test machine intelligence through behavior, language, and interaction. Then in 1956, the term artificial intelligence became official at a famous research meeting at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. Yes, I've been up there. This meeting is often described as the birth of AI, as a formal field at least. The researchers believed that parts of learning intelligence could be described so clearly that a machine could eventually be made to simulate them. That was a bold idea, and we're still working on it. It was almost like saying, if we can understand the steps of human reasoning, maybe we can teach a machine to follow these steps. And honestly, that's funny to me because I know plenty of parents who would love to master that at different levels, especially those with 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds. If I can just figure out how this child thinks, maybe I can get them to put their shoes on, brush their teeth, make their bed, and get to school on time. But no, Dartmouth identifies in 1956 with his summer research talking about his project and it being a major turning point in the formal development of artificial intelligence as a field. In the early years, AI was mostly about rules and symbols. Programmers tried to teach computers how to reason by giving them instructions. If this happens, then do that. In a way, it was kind of like a predictable salsa dance. If your partner steps here, you step there. If the rhythm moves this way, you respond that way. And honestly, if you have not tried salsa dancing, I highly recommend it. You can learn a lot from it. This kind of AI is sometimes called symbolic AI or rule-based AI because it was like trying to write down the rules of thinking. For example, if a doctor is diagnosing an illness, the computer might be given rules about symptoms, diseases, and treatments. If a person has a fever, a cough, or anything else in certain test results, then the system might suggest a diagnosis. This was powerful, but it also had limits. Real life is messy. Human language is messy. Culture is messy. Creativity is messy. And a lot of human thinking does not fit nearly into simple rules. At the same time, another approach was developing, neural networks. Neural networks were inspired loosely by the brain. Instead of giving the computer every rule, researchers tried to create systems that could learn from examples. One early example was the perceptron, introduced by Frank Rosenblatt in the late 1950s. Cornell describes the perceptron as an early neural network, and Rosenblatt's work helped lay foundations for later machine learning. This is where we can use a musical analogy. A rule-based system is like giving a student a list of music theory rules. Here's the scale, here's the chord, here's what you are allowed to play. Now go. A learning system is more like giving the student thousands of recordings and saying, listen very carefully, which means putting down your phone today. Now notice the patterns. Learn the language. That does not mean the student understands the music in the same way a human artist does, but it does mean the student starts to recognize patterns. In a similar way, modern AI learns patterns from massive amounts of data. But AI did not move forward in one straight line. There were periods of excitement, and then there were periods of disappointment, ups and downs, highs and lows. People made big promises about what AI would be able to do, but the computers were not powerful enough. The data was limited, and the systems often failed outside narrow situations. These periods are sometimes called AI winters, when funding, excitement, and public confidence cooled down. That is an important part of the story because it reminds us that AI has always gone through cycles: hype, progress, disappointment, and then new breakthroughs. The idea of cycles can be heard clearly across both hip hop and jazz. In hip hop, you can look at songs such as Changes by Tupac. You can look at Giant Steps in Jazz by John Coltrane. Lots of cycles there. You can even look at the title Cycles in a song written by Gail Caldwell, but made popular by Frank Sinatra. All these different things speak to the emotional cycles of life: loss, resilience, and starting again. AI is and will go through cycles. The next major shift came when computers became much more powerful and the world started producing huge amounts of digital data. Every search, every photo, every online purchase, every video, every digital document created more information that machines could learn from. At the same time, graphics processing units, or GPUs, made it possible to train larger neural networks faster. This helped create the deep learning revolution. One famous breakthrough came in 2012 when a deep learning system called AlexNet performed extremely well in the ImageNet image recognition competition and helped show the power of deep neural networks for recognizing images. That moment matters because it helped change the direction of AI. AI was no longer about writing rules by hand. It was increasingly about training large models on large data sets. Instead of saying, "Here are the rules for recognizing a cat," researchers could show the system millions of images and let it learn patterns that distinguish cats from dogs, cars, people, buildings, and thousands of other objects. This is the one reason AI started improving in image recognition, speech recognition, translation, recommendation systems, and eventually writing and conversation. Then came another major development: the transformer. Transformers. In 2017, researchers published a paper called "Attention is All You Need," which introduced the transformer architecture. The paper described a model based on attention mechanisms, which helped systems process language more effectively and efficiently. This architecture became central to many of the large language models people use today. LLM. Get used to this acronym. You're going to hear a lot of it from now on. You've probably heard it and didn't realize you've heard it. But LLM, large language models. The simplest way to explain attention is this: when you read a sentence, not every word matters equally at every moment. You pay attention to relationships between words. For example, in the sentence, "The musician put the trumpet in the case because it was fragile." You understand that. It probably refers to the trumpet, not the case. Language depends on relationships, context, memory, and probability. If you don't believe me, check and see if you've ever gotten an argument, a heated argument. Transformer models become powerful because they could track relationships across words and phrases in a very flexible way. That brings us to tools like ChatGPT. OpenAI released ChatGPT as a research preview. It became available November 30th, 2022. The reason it felt so different to many people was that it made AI conversational. You did not need to be a programmer. Prior to that, I thought you had to be a programmer. I have a brother. He was a programmer. That's what you do. I wasn't doing that. But now you could just simply ask a question. You could ask for help. You could ask it to help you write an email, brainstorm ideas, translate a phrase, summarize a document, or ask it to explain a complicated topic in plain English. So when people say, "Where did AI come from?" we can say it came from many streams, many places, all at the same time. Some, it took some time. It came from Alan Turing asking whether machines could think. It came from Dartmouth researchers naming a new field called artificial intelligence. It came from rule-based systems that tried to capture human reasoning. It came from neural networks that learn from examples. It came from more data, faster computers, the internet, GPUs, deep learning, and the transformer. But it also came from human curiosity and creativity. In the arts, It came from some spirited people trying to make things better or dissect it. Musicians do take things apart, but we do put them back together. So do painters. So do all artists. That's how we see and visualize what we want the future to be. It's kind of related to the experiment of the synthesizer, drum machines, or samplers, loopers, recording technology. These things were very scary at one time. Now they're pretty much on everybody's stage. AI is part of the longer story. Humans building machines not only to calculate, but also to imagine, compose, remix, assist, and collaborate. So AI did not appear out of nowhere. It grew out of science, technology, art, culture, and the human desire to push beyond the limits of what we can do. And that is the part I think we should not miss. AI is not just a technology story. It is a human story. It reflects what we value, what we measure, what we teach machines to imitate, and what kinds of problems we think are worth solving. AI came from our attempt to understand intelligence, but now it is forcing us to ask an even deeper question. What is uniquely human? As an artist and educator, I think this is where the conversation gets powerful. AI can generate words, images, sounds, and ideas, but it does not have that lived experience. It does not have childhood memories. It does not know what it means to struggle, to love, to grieve, to improvise in a room full of people, or to carry culture in the body. That does not make AI useless. It means we have to understand what kind of tool it is. AI came from decades of research, but where it goes next depends on us. It depends on educators, artists, parents, students, leaders, and communities deciding how to use it. So the real question is not only where did AI come from? The bigger question is, now that it is here, what kind of future are we going to build with it? Well, my friends, we're at the close of this podcast. Once again, I'd like to tell everyone, keep your eyes and ears open. Stay kind. Be a groovy person. And as the jazz architect always says, being creative and innovative is the best way to start and end your day. See you soon.